Hello, everyone. We're back for another episode of Fides.
Guilherme, just your voice is very echoey. There's something not.
Oh wait, let me edit this. I can edit. Uh,
We need to get your audio, so it's not just it's it's echoing and kind of booming.
how is it now?
A little better, but still, keep talking.
Okay. Hello. Can you testing?
I think
Uh,
that's
better.
there's still a little bit of an echo. Maybe you should try using earphones.
Cause let me see if I have any. Yeah, just because of the place. This room. Cause I don't have any. Uh, give me a second. Minute. Okay. I think there's a way. What if I reduce the sound?
There's still an echo.
Okay. Let me see.
Now there's like some static. Oh, now I'm hearing my voice. There's a tremendous echo.
Okay, what about now?
Hello, can you? Okay, now
Yeah, can you hear me now? Is it better now?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay. Is the echo still bad?
But there's still it's not like repeating, like talking back to me, but there's this after effect of your voice that's still fairly obvious.
Okay. Uh, okay.
Yeah, it echoes. It's a short echo, but
Let me see. Yeah, because it's only giving me these options. I think this is what we'll do. We'll do it despite the echo, and then I'm gonna try to get my editor to fix it. I think he can do something. He can do something to reduce it at least on my end.
it's
Do you
not
think that's
off.
possible?
Yeah, it's not like mine was, where I was like speaking back to myself. Yours is more of a continuation of the sound briefly after you've.
Let me. It's because of the room here. Let me just see if there's. It's because
Yeah,
I'm at the seminary.
it's a very
But
echoey room.
yeah, it's very. There's a lot of echo. Let me go. Sorry, give me a second.
You can't find a pair of headphones, just a little. You don't have your
God,
earpods or.
yeah, I don't have any. That's the. I'm gonna get some next time. Now that this happened.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, let me see something here. Okay. Oh, how's the echo?
It's gotten better.
It's better. Okay, let's do here. Let me just turn on the lights. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Right. Okay. Sorry. I think I got it. Give me 1 second. Okay. How's it now?
It's better than it was.
Okay, let's try this then.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. This works. All right. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, and then I'll edit it and I'll cut it. Okay, let's go. Can we start, Nick?
Yeah.
Just let me know when you're the cue when you're ready.
Yeah, let me just gotta finish typing this little text.
Oh yeah, no problem.
I've just been very busy
Oh, is it with work?
out in California.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was talking to a friend today, Nick. Yeah, he's like you. He's the dean of the law school here, but he has to work. Like he does law school and he works at a firm in São Paulo.
Yeah.
It's like the same. It's the same like routine.
They don't pay academics enough to.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless like, I mean, if you're like if it's like exclusive dedication, it's not too bad. It's like enough to survive. But like his case, with all the expenses as a lawyer and all the stuff he has to do,
Right.
it's just not enough.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Let's begin again, shall we?
All right. 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Fides at Politica family. We're here for another episode. We are back from vacation, and we are at a different location. I'm here live from Brazil. And Nick, where are you at?
Well, I'm in California visiting my parents in Southern California, and I have some legal work out here as well. But yours is the special movement of note. After many, many years of being a student, we can now introduce to the world Professor Guilherme Brazil de Souza, and he is working at a university in Brazil. You'll tell us the full name, but he's going to be connected with both a seminary and a law school. So he's perfectly positioned to talk about the intersection of law and religion, and especially help bring an international perspective to our discussions here. We're very pleased for him.
Yeah, well, thanks for that generous introduction, Nick. It feels great. Like I can't believe I'm like here. For people that don't know me, I graduated almost 10 years ago, and I was just studying that whole time. So now I finally have a kind of full-time job. So it feels really good. It feels good to be here. It's called Uniaini. It's a small Seventh-day Adventist university in the state of Bahia, in northeast Brazil, an hour and a half from the city of Salvador, which is like one of the third largest city here in the country. So I'm teaching at the seminary and also collaborating, and hopefully we can get you down here, Nick, for an event in the future.
Sure.
Also, some folks from the GC NELU now, and organize an event here with religious liberty. There's a lot of issues with religious liberty, both for Adventists, Sabbath accommodations. At the university here, we've had issues with also religious intolerance for religious minorities. So there's going to be a lot of work to do here, teaching and preparing pastors to be spiritually prepared and also intellectually prepared to face the challenges that they will encounter in the district and in the mission field.
Wonderful.
Nick, not to belabor us, because I know you're also busy. We had a lot going on this week, both in the U.S. and Brazil, and I think the news that nobody wants to stop talking about are the Epstein files, right? That's something that has been really, for some reason, even becoming kind of a partisan issue in Congress. Also, you had a lot of podcasters, a lot of YouTubers Andrew Schultz, who's this very famous podcaster who kind of supported Trump, is now pressuring him to release the Epstein files. When Trump was threatening to release the MLK files, they were saying, "We don't want the MLK files. We want the Epstein files. Like you have nothing to hide." So tell us a little bit, Nick. I know you've been kind of following this a little bit more since you're in the States. Maybe just give a little bit of a breakdown of the significance of this and some of the implications if these files are released.
Well, again, it has to do with what we've talked about in the past. The fundamental rule of law. Are people who are rich or wealthy or powerful going to be able to dodge serious criminal and moral issues? This podcast, we try to talk about things from the perspective of the free church tradition. And there's probably two principles that come into play there. The first one is, as opposed to people who say the government shouldn't legislate morality, the free church tradition says, no, the government can legislate morality as long as it has to do with the second table of the Ten Commandments, right? The government shouldn't legislate spiritual morality, days of worship, kinds of prayers, blasphemy laws. But as far as, sexual, especially when it comes to minors, right? This is what the Epstein scandal is about. It's not just that people were behaving promiscuously, sexually, but that it was with underage individuals, with minor girls, 16, 17, 18. Well, 18 wouldn't be minor anymore, but those under the age of 18. And Epstein was in jail because of that. And his girlfriend, mistress, whatever she was, is also in jail for that. And there's a lot of people who were caught up in this world. And now it's pretty clear that, Trump had a close relationship for 10 or 15 years with Epstein. The Justice Department has indicated that he appears a number of times in the files. The Wall Street Journal broke a story about a birthday card, a kind of semi-obscene birthday card that was sent to Epstein, allegedly by Trump. This hasn't been proven yet, but the Wall Street Journal reported it. And the president has now sued the Wall Street Journal and the publisher, Rupert Murdoch, who, ironically enough, also owns Fox News, which is constantly promoting and supporting Donald Trump. So you mentioned this story becoming partisan. Maybe it started out partisan, but there's actually a lot of people on the right wing who have been calling for the release of the Epstein files. And there's a certain falling out among the MAGA faithful that they're wanting some accountability here. And I guess the second principle from the free church tradition is openness and transparency of government, right? A government with the rule of law has to have a certain amount of light and openness to it. And to bury these files, to move along, to say there's nothing to see here, to try to distract with other kinds of topics, moves away from this fundamental premise of the rule of law and of having an openness about this topic. So we'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah, I know there's like some theories, and you're probably familiar with this as a legal scholar, on like a hyper kind of unitary executive. The president can do no wrong. I don't know if you ever heard this one. This one was the one I heard when I took a con law class. It was actually from a really well-respected legal scholar, but I think it came a lot around kind of the Clinton era. That was basically the same way that Lincoln couldn't be prosecuted for a crime that he did before being president. I'm paraphrasing it very loosely, but the kind of gist of the argument was the same way that Lincoln couldn't be prosecuted during his tenure as president because that would endanger the unity and the safety and the security and the operation of the executive. Bill Clinton or the president or Trump, fill in the blank, president cannot be prosecuted because that would interfere with the functioning of the executive, and that would allow any private citizen to sue the executive office. So it's kind of an argument of separating the individual from the office.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Your hot
Well,
take on that?
there is some kind of precedent for that, right? I mean, if you didn't have some level of immunity, then every prosecutor across the country, state prosecutor, could try to prosecute the president, and it could be very partisan and very disruptive. Um, but you also can see, the president, a fundamental principle of republicanism was that the king is not above the law, that the law is king. It's not the king over the law. And likewise, the president may have a certain level of immunity. It's a balancing test. How serious is the crime? How much is it going to interfere with his carrying out his office? But I think it's a very bad idea just to have a blanket immunity for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it should be considered on a case by case basis. Immunity is important for the office, but it can't be. And unfortunately, we've had this Supreme Court decision about a year ago that has given a rather high level of immunity that is quite high and quite protective and quite alarming, honestly, to a number of us. I think, though, that the Epstein files have less to do with a prosecution of the possible prosecution of the president and more to do with the political fallout and impact. And
So it's more the court of public opinion, you think, that is going to affect, as opposed to him actually being possibly indicted?
So the irony here, of course, is that it was the Republicans that for many years kind of spread conspiracy theories about an international ring of government leaders and elites who ran a child molestation ring.
Yeah.
And the kernel of truth at the core of this conspiracy theory turns out to have nearly at its center their own president, apparently, and certainly his close friends, the billionaires that he hung out with, were trafficking in underage girls. And now Trump is at least very close to this, and it's caused something of an upheaval in the MAGA world, and so it should,
No, and I think this just goes again to the whole premise of this podcast. We can't be a slave to a party, right? If you're a slave, like, but what we see as different, as much as the parties might disagree on social issues, on economic issues, they're both human, and they act like humans, like fallen, broken people. I think this is just an example of we're seeing the same kind of spirit of the degeneracy manifest on both aisles of the spectrum.
We can't.
Sorry, you were gonna say something.
Well, I was just going to add to that. We can't give unreserved loyalty to either party. And the problem has been that for many people, Trump has taken on a messianic status, especially after he survived the assassination attempt, you remember, last summer during the campaign.
Yeah,
now many people are just believe that he's divinely chosen and whatever he does is acceptable. And
for me, it's still weird how similar it is to Brazil. I feel like, man, was I supposed to be born this way? Was I supposed to live in two countries that are like kind of mirror images, except for the socioeconomics from each other, that like copy each other, at least politically? Or maybe I'm just like seeing too much into it. It's like Bolsonaro almost got killed. That kind of propelled him to get elected. Trump in his second term. So I don't know if like who's using whose like script.
Who's the original template? That's a good question.
The original.
It's almost like there's some larger supernatural influences here that are causing similar things to happen in different places. So what is happening? Right? What is happening in Brazil that we might want to talk about in the political world?
Well, I think it's kind of similar. My kind of take, like living kind of between the two countries, is Brazil's always kind of like 5 or 7 years behind the U.S. So the same way we were kind of having the whole that whole kind of a push, or what the media will call like the Great Awakening, that's kind of happening here now. But now they're having the backlash, the moral majoritarian reaction now, we're kind of witnessing that, and that's obviously creating a lot of tension in the different institutions. And here's where the difference lies. While in the States we have a conservative, uh, majority Republican Supreme Court, here's the exact opposite. We have, well, it's 11 justices here, and out of the 11, basically 10 are either associated with some kind of liberal social democratic party, and one is a evangelical Christian who's conservative, who was appointed by Bolsonaro.
Now, I understand that Donald Trump recently sanctioned, was it 8 members of the Supreme Court because of a
Yeah, he
decision they
basically,
made?
yes, he
What does
basically
that
took.
mean? How does he
It means they
sanction?
can't go to the U.S.
Oh,
But here's the thing, Nick, and he sanctioned. He took away their visas, any access for them to come to visit the U.S. And a lot of these, and mind you, a lot of these are justices. Like one of the justices, he studied at Yale Law School, so he's constantly going giving lectures in the U.S. His daughter studied, so he took away their visas, their right to entry in the U.S. of these 8 justices, and their families. So their families have also been barred from coming, which I think is
quite remarkable.
remarkable. That's a good.
And why? What was the decision that triggered this?
So it was a lot of factors, but it kind of started in the context of one of the justices, which is probably the most well known in the outside of Brazil, which is Alexandre de Moraes. So Alexandre de Moraes, he was in a battle with like Elon Musk, with X, with these kind of regulations, the policies of X, also Rumble, primarily Rumble. They're free speech policies, because as you know, as a lawyer, these are American companies. They go to a country, they go to like Europe, they go to Brazil. They want the country to adopt their policies, right? But there was one interesting case in Rumble with a Brazilian right-wing activist. His name was Alan dos Santos. So he started using his platform to criticize Alexandre de Moraes. He called him a vermin. He compared him with Hitler because of his regulations with free speech. Brazil's not like the U.S. We don't have like broad protections for free speech. We don't have that history to the extent as the U.S. It's much similar to Germany or Europe or the rest of like Western Europe, where there's like hate speech laws, those kinds of codes. So anyway, this influencer, he started comparing him to Hitler, comparing him to calling him a Nazi, calling him a vermin, calling him a rat, criticizing the Supreme Court, which is very progressive here in Brazil, and that triggered Justice Moraes to basically, is it an injunction where basically like the judge issues a mandate for you to get arrested? But yeah, it was basically an order. So he fled to the U.S. and what the Supreme Court mandated that that Rumble cancel his account, right? So that was what was remarkable, right? So I think in general, for us, or those of us who kind of have lived or live in the U.S., that's kind of a judicial act of usurpation, right? He's kind of regulating, he's kind of cracking down on free speech as we would understand it in the U.S. But the situation does become a little bit more complex because this Alan dos Santos character allegedly, and this is what the investigation revealed, but on his platform, allegedly, an audio from his platform was sent to a group of some of the protesters who were involved in the January 8 coup in Brazil of 2023, which was similar to what we had in the U.S.
So, ours was January 6th. Yours was
January 8.
Right.
But actually, it was because it was on the same day, but it was 2 years later, right? So it was probably, I think it was like allegedly, right? There's might be some kind of involvement from some characters that both of us are are familiar with. But this is what allegedly was said in the audio. Let's go to the front of Congress, the Brazilian Congress, to the front of the Supreme Federal Court. That's where we'll take back our country. You men, you want to fight for the only little bit of your country. Brasilia, which is the capital where they had where they stormed the Capitol, is the place. End quote for the audio. So that's the thing. I think that's where it gets more complicated, because I think in that case, if it is the case, right, that he said that, if it is the case that it's proven that those were his words, I think you could make a case that that's a kind of like an
incitement to violence.
To violence, yeah, to undermining democracy and treason.
So in the United States, merely undermining democracy and treason, well, there are laws against treason, but
treason's capital crime, isn't it, Nick, in the Constitution?
Well, it can be, yes, but it wouldn't be the standard of treason wouldn't be met by just saying something like this. It would have to be an actual engagement with a foreign enemy somehow, and probably an act of some kind to go along with it. See, this is purely speech. And in America, the only way that this would become actionable is if the speech was given at a time when it appeared that it would actually instigate violence, that there was an imminent threat of violence. So I don't know when he said this, like if he said it a week before or even 2 days before, it wouldn't meet the standard. It would have to be almost like what President Trump did, standing in front of the Capitol on the day and urging people to go and, storm the Capitol. Like that, that would not receive protection under the U.S. First Amendment. But anything else, like said days or weeks before, wouldn't qualify.
No, for sure. That's kind of how I thought, and it kind of it kind of just shows you a little bit of kind of what we go through here, because it's a very polarized kind of political context. You have a very progressive Supreme Court that in some ways they've done a lot, like they helped a lot the Adventist Church with like religious accommodations with Sabbath accommodations, but also they've been kind of pushing some like progressive social agendas that have really triggered the evangelical and kind of Catholic right wing to rise up and produce, right, kind of what we're seeing is this kind of convergence of this old world European right-wing
non-free church tradition.
Exactly, yeah. The authoritarian right.
State church tradition. Yes.
Exactly. And this individual, this character, this Alan dos Santos, he's a student of Olavo de Carvalho, who's this counter-revolutionary thinker, this very kind of nationalist, Catholic authoritarian philosopher who died in 2022. And who's also friends with Steve Bannon, right, and with Alexander Dugin in Russia. So yeah, so it's you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, you know. And I think I guess that's kind of one of the things I want to really help with my students is really to promote these values of the tradition, of Roger Williams, of Ellen White, of this. Freedom, the free church tradition.
Free church tradition, yeah.
I think that's kind of. But at the same time, I also think, Nick, that this story also it leads us to reflect on why is it important for us to allow free speech, even for a character like that, who's inciting violence, or possible maybe not legally inciting violence, but is very close to supporting. The undermining of democracy and of all these liberties that we cherish. Why are those persons deserving of these rights of speech?
So that's a great answer, and of course there's a liberal tradition which argues that people should have the right to express their point of view in the marketplace of ideas, because the ideas will sort themselves out and the better ones will emerge. And often that's seen as a kind of utilitarian basis, right? Or like a version of capitalism, right? The free market but the idea actually goes back, at least in the modern West, to John Milton, who very much had a theological underpinning to this, and he believed that that when Christ came, the early church had a large amount of truth, but that over time, through the centuries, it was dissipated and lost sight of. And the Protestant Reformation was the beginning of the recovery of that truth, to put laity truth back together. And if you passed laws forbidding certain kinds of speech, that you would interfere with the process of the testing and the trying. It's the best the best argument against bad speech is better good speech, right? So people can see the contrast between truth and error. So it's not just a capitalist utilitarian idea about which is going to be most effective. It really is about testing, allowing all truths and points of view to be tested so people can see clearly which are the truthful ideas.
No, and I just want to kind of hone down to that because I also, I agree completely with that. But we kind of see this parallel, right, with free speech and free religion, and kind of going back to one of the heroes and one of the intellectual lights of the history right behind uh, this free church tradition. Roger Williams, he says, "It is the will of God that since the coming of His Son, there be the greatest toleration to the most heathenish consciences, pagan, Muslim, Jewish, and atheist." Right? And there's this idea that they should be combated, and he says they should be combated with that sword, which is the sword of the Spirit, the Word of God. Right? And it goes back to that, and I think it's the same idea with free speech, that we see that bad ideas.
Yeah, Roger Williams is drawing on John Milton.
Oh yeah, exactly, because they're contemporaries, right?
Well, Roger Williams is Milton is older than Williams. There's no.
Oh, he is.
Oh yeah, no, they are contemporaries. They are contemporaries.
That's what I thought. Yeah, because Williams is 1603, right, to 1683.
Yes, and Milton is in that period as well.
In that period, yeah, the 17th century. But I think it's the same principle, right? That these ideas, they should be combated, and these religions, they should be combated with the sword, with the Word of God, and not through force, right? Through violence,
through persuasion rather than coercion. And this goes back to the early Martin Luther said exactly these kinds of things, that heresy should not be the oversight of the magistrate, that it should be dealt with persuasively through the Word of God, allowing people to voluntarily choose it. So even Luther, early Luther anyway, was part of our free church tradition.
Yeah, and then he pulled back. No, I agree with you. I think there's two Luthers. There's I think after the Peasants' Revolt that kind of caused a reaction or a fear in him, and then he went this sort of kind of what you're going to see with Germany, this very executive, administrative state that kind of the prince is sovereign over all, very kind of proto-Hobbesian in a sense. But
well, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's just conclude, Nick. What are some of the takeaways from this, and what are the things that we would like our audience to leave with?
Well,
on this free church tradition in light of these different movements that are happening around the world, around these skepticism about liberal democracy. What message do we want to send to our followers here on YouTube, Instagram, on the importance and the value of this free church tradition?
I think there's a couple of them that you can't just stand up for religious freedom without worrying about the larger framework of civil liberties that it's embedded in. Religious freedom can't just stand on its own. It requires the freedom of speech. It requires the freedom of assembly. It requires a certain openness, the rule of law in government. And so even as we're promoting freedom of religion, we have to be promoting these other basic civil liberties as well. Early Adventists talked in terms of freedom of conscience, but also republicanism, the rule of law, civil liberties, a society that was open and free. We have to be concerned about both those things. And the second thing I think that emerges is that these are under attack all around the world, right? Religious Christian nationalism is not a United States phenomenon. It is, in fact, the pervasive way that most cultures and societies have approached the question of church and state. They have religious nationalism. Brazil has a background, as you've alluded to already, of a deep history of church and state being combined. And so these same illiberal forces that we see at work in the United States are mirrored and probably even more advanced in many places around the world. So we have to speak for the free church tradition everywhere.
And what I would say, what I will conclude, Nick, I would just say that this free church tradition, it is the application of our three, and I'm speaking now more for, our Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist followers, the people that are going to be watching this. It is an application of our faith, right, in public life. It is the distillation of these principles of the three angels' messages into how we approach and how we filter current events and public life, right? If you believe that God is love, if you believe that he's coming again, if you believe that he is a personal God of love who wants persons to choose him because they love him and not because they are coerced, if you believe that his government is different than the government of God, then that means then the free church tradition embodies the applications of these principles into an organized civil order. So we hope that in your engagement, whether in the church or outside of the church in public life, you can continue to defend these principles, promote these principles, regardless of what the media or what the pop culture might say otherwise.
You're here.
All right. Thank you for watching, everyone. Another episode of Fides and Politica.
All right. Cut. Good day, everyone. Yep. That's the end.
The end. Awesome.
All right.
Okay, Nick, I'll make sure to put this. I'm gonna edit it a little bit, and then we'll publish it.
Very good. Thanks for your continued work with this. And next week I'm going to be in Nevada.
Okay.
I'm kind of on a family vacation, so maybe I don't know. Maybe we can fit one in, but maybe we should aim for the week following.
That's probably fine.
Have a busy start to the school year as well. And
did you get a follow up with Bettina? Did she show any interest?
I just haven't followed up with her. I've been away and out, and so I need to do that when I get back. But I think she's interested. I think she'll want to work with us. We just need to keep bugging her about it. And I mean, that's my idea. Is we'll have a Branson fellow with Liberty Magazine, and I'll have that person dedicated to helping put these podcasts together, to creating programs and working with us on the technical side as well. So
I don't know. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's because of the delay in the sound, so sometimes it cuts. Right. It feels like I don't know if I told you, but the president of my institution, he used to be a parle director for the Southern Brazilian Union.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah, so he's very passionate about it. Maybe maybe we can invite him. I mean, I'll see how his availability is in the future.
Yeah,
talk about his experience. It would be kind of like a fun, like Wow Unyaini like collab that we could have. Yeah, awesome. Well, anyway, it was always great chatting with you. Hope everything's well with the family. Enjoy your time in California, and we'll schedule when you're available the next episode.
Yeah, good. Have a great start to the school year and settling down there, and we're proud of what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.